testimony from a longtime friend of Patrick Frazee wraps up the second week of the murder trial. The friend, he had multiple strange conversations with Frazee. Some of the conversations were, and it goes like this. A friend says, Patrick Frazee then adds, "Man, if I knew it was going to blow up this much, I never would have." The friend says that's where the conversation stopped. He also says Patrick Frazee is talking to the friend, saying he doesn't understand why there is so much media coverage on Kelsey Berreth going missing. He said, "People go missing all the time." And then his friend says, when he testified, saying Patrick told him, "I figured out how to kill Kelsey." And he said, "I told him to stop messing around." And that's what his friend said. Patrick told him, "Nobody, no crime." Maybe that's nobody, no crime. Hi guys, it's the 8th of November 2019. Court is back in session after 1 o'clock. They came back, and the first witness they put on the stand was the FBI evidence response team agent to discuss the searches. After lunch, prosecutors called FBI Special Agent Charles DeFrance, who is the senior agent for the FBI Denver office evidence response team. He went out on all the evidence response team searches during the case. He said, DeFrance said he was involved in the search on December the 14th and 15th of Frazee's ranch, searched Frazee's truck on 2 separate occasions, and returned on December the 21st to Frazee's property as well as Berreth's townhouse. He explained how his job involves documenting everything at the scene so investigators can decide what is significant and if there is other evidence that they should search for. DeFrance said that they went back to the property on December the 21st after Kenny gave her formal statement to investigators, and they gleaned more leads. And he said that during the searches on the 14th and 15th, investigators had team inside and outside of the home, as well as a human remains detection team. Investigators looked for burn areas but would not find it until the 21st, after Kenny gave investigators more specific information. He said that investigators noticed the black tote during the initial search and looked inside it, but did not collect it until they went back to Frazee's property on the 21st. He also said he walked with Kenny as they toured the property, but said they did not talk to her until she had led out of sight from the investigation at the home. He said at that point she started discussing the burn site and correctly answered questions without looking at the site. And the investigators took her to the burn site. Okay. So, DeFrance said the agents and investigation use luminol, which reacts to human blood and glows blue in the dark, but that it seemed to be reacting everywhere, making investigators think something aside from blood was causing the reaction. So they got a new material to use for testing, DeFrance said. He goes on and said he scraped across the area where Kenny said the fire burned, and said he could see and smell burnt plastic. He said the plastic was level with the ground underneath the layer of gravel that had been placed on top of the burn scar. He also goes on to say that he searched Berreth's home on December the 19th, a day before Kenny gave her statements to investigations. He said it was a relatively narrow search and that he used luminol there too, but it was not effective. He said investigators were treating the scene that day as a potential murder scene, but they later learned there had been a pretty substantial cleanup, though he did not realize that at the time, saying the townhouse seemed relatively well kept and clean. But by the 21st, he said they knew to look for signs of a cleanup, which he called substantial because of the information Kenny had told them about the manner in Berreth was allegedly killed. On cross-examination, DeFrance said that 7 different canines were involved in the search on December the 14th, but none of them alerted to anything, he said. Though he said he wasn't sure if the burn area was part of the search. Team leader of the FBI evidence response team testifies. See, there's a lot of people that were testifying today with the FBI, the searchers, so there's a lot of people involved, and they were testifying little bits here, little bits there. So, the FBI evidence response team's leader, Special Agent Ashley Cape, then was called to the stand. She said investigators found evidence that accelerates were used in the fire, and they did not find a bat on Fraser's property. Yeah, accelerants were used because KK said he put gas on the fire and oil on the fire, so it would burn hotter. But they didn't find a bat on Fraser's property. Am I reading that wrong? Because earlier I read that they found 3 bats that were on the property, and a wooden one. I don't know, but anyway, that must have been one of the searches then. You know, sometimes these things get a little confusing, don't they? But I did state in one of my videos that it might have been the last one, that they found 3 bats on his property. But anyway, okay, I'll carry on reading. She said they found a drawer full of receipts during the searches of the Fraser home, and that some of them had relevant timestamps regarding when he got the gas. Upon cross-examination, she testified that some of the motor oil bottles collected were empty and some were half full. Kenny previously testified that Frazee tossed motor oil into the fire to make it burn hotter. And now we go on to the next FBI agent testifying. They found what appeared to be a tooth. FBI Special Agent Donald Peterson, who works on the Safe Street Task Force, was the next witness called to the stand. He was also a team leader for the search team. He was present for the Frazee Ranch search on December the 14th and 15th in Kelsey Berreth's home team on the 19th, and was a team leader at the Frazee's property search on the 21st. He helped excavate the area where the fire burnt. He pointed out the burnt areas in the photos, explained the discolored patch, then also noted that you could see the home's desk from the burn area, which was about 5 feet by 8 feet, Peterson said. He explained how they used hand tools and brushes to remove the dirt and other materials Frazee allegedly covered the burn area with to expose plastic crust in the soil. He was also shown several pictures of the plastic crust and explained how investigators sift other materials that was in the burn pit, and said the way the plastic melted, it appeared to form into the shape of the metal trough. Peterson said that after investigators took soil samples from the burn area perimeter, they had established that they then gathered materials to sift from underneath the plastic crust. Peterson testified Friday that during the last shovel full of dirt and material they sift through, they found what they believed to be a tooth. A photo of the suspected tooth was shown in court on Friday, which was the 8th. Prosecutor Dan May then called FBI Special Agent Janey to the stand. So here's another FBI agent. Another agent involved in the searches who photographed the Frazee property on the 21st. She photographed three bats on the property that day. She testified and told May she recognized a gas can shown in court as the same on Frazee's property, on his property, which she says was about a quarter full during the search. May then called FBI Special Agent Stephanie to the witness stand. Boy, they're flying through these FBI agents, who was involved in the December the 14th and 15th searches of Frazee's home and has special training in searches. She said they found an ornament in a box. It came with that Berreth's brother had previously testified he sent Kaylee. So remember, Kelsey Berreth's brother said he sent an ornament and to the house for Kaylee, and he wanted to know if she got it or not. he sent it to her house. But you know what? It's not her house no more, is it? It's at Frazie's property. And as well as paperwork about ownership of a horse with Kenny's name on it. So he's got everybody's stuff there, doesn't he? He's got everybody's a thief. He's got everything. He even has ownership of the horse. Wow. She said that there were signs that a child lived there. Right, listen to this one. Now, Patrick says and accuses Kelly of not being a good mother. She's dangerous. You know, she lets her kid fall all over the place, fall down the stairs. It's, you know, you name it, whatever. And her hand got caught in the fridge. She had bruises on her, this, that, and the other. Well, listen to this. Because he's probably the one that gave her all these marks, because his house is very unsafe. Right. She said the signs that a child lived in his home, okay, but a few toys at the home. She also testified that the home did not appear safe for a toddler, as there were sharp edges, a hot burning stove in the center of the house with no child gates around it, and chemicals around the home. How about that, guys? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. See? He's the one that's not making his child safe. Yeah, we knew that. She, as did Peterson, also discussed the different consistencies of the soil in the burn area. Mentioned finding partial tooth. She also said that she thought that was significant. It was a tooth at a site that we had been briefed on, where a body had possibly been burnt. The court then went on a short break and was back in session at 3:20 p.m. So they've been on the break, and now we are up to long-time friend of Frazee testifies, says Frazee discuss killing Berreth. Now this guy is a long-time friend of Frazee since they were 12 or 13 years old. The prosecutors called Joseph Paul Moore to the stand. He is a Park County cattle rancher who said he's familiar with other cattle men and women in the Park, Teller and Fremont County areas. Moore testified he first met Frazee when Frazee was between 10 and 13 years old, when Frazee was riding horses, that he's been to Fremont County to help Frazee with his cattle, and that he'd known Frazee for 21 years now. He said he offered Frazee a job somewhere around 2001, 2003, and that he'd been to Fraser's property several dozen times over the years and called him an excellent cattleman. He said that in the late 2018, he had a good relationship with Fraser. In the court Friday, he said Fraser had so much going for him. Moore said he sometimes called him his step kid through tears in court. Moore testified, "You just don't want to picture somebody that you've known this long and trusted. You just don't want to think that they could do something like this." Moore said that he and Fraser were close enough that if he was going out of town, he'd call Fraser and ask them to come check on his animals while he was gone. Moore said the first time he met Berreth, Kelsey, was at a ranch around November 2016 when she was helping move Fraser's calves. Now listen to this. Moore said Berreth did not know how to handle all the cows. Well, she wouldn't. She's not a cattle woman. She's not a farm girl. She's a pilot. But anyway, having never been in that situation before, he testified that Fraser was not pleased with her. He wasn't pleased with her because she couldn't control the cattle. And that was in 2016. That was just when she met him. He berated her horribly, Moore said. He yelled at her, cussed at her. Just terrible. Terribly. He said that was one of the 2 times he met Kelsey. But he said Fraser told her. He said Fraser told her she was pregnant in early October 17. I think he meant told him. Moore said Fraser told him at the time he did not know Berreth was pregnant until that day. Okay, did you get that? That was a bit confusing. I'm just reading it. But it wasn't long after Moore said that Fraser started saying things he thought was out of the ordinary. During a trip to the shoe horses, Moore said Fraser said he was having trouble with somebody and told them that kids go missing all the time from playgrounds and schoolyards. Didn't he say that to KK? He said that to KK too. Yeah, he certainly did. And Moore said he told him you shouldn't say those things, though Fraser said he was kidding. Moore said that on April the 26th, 2018, the two were running their bulls on another ranch. Moore said he asked Fraser how things were going with Kaylee, Joe's mom, which Moore said is how Fraser referred to Berreth, to Kelsey. He said, I figured out a way to kill her, Moore testified. And I went. Don't even talk about things like that. Get that shit out of your head. He just kind of grinned and said, "Nobody, no crime, right?" That's what Frazee said to him. Nobody, no crime, right? We have some bombshells in this trial, don't we? Moore said he told Frazee again to get that shit out of his head. During that summer, Moore said Frazee told him about how he had people spying on or watching Kelsey. I said that earlier about, he may have been watching everybody, because KK said she thinks that he could have been videoing and watching her. And I said, well, he could have been. He could have been. And taking pictures of her because he said he wanted to sue her for custody of Kaylee. And this is in April. This is in April. April, guys. April. And he wants to go for custody. I don't know about suing him for custody, but you take him to court. And Moore said Frazee sounded serious about his claims. And another incident that made him suspicious after the fact, Moore said, was one in which they were discussing the film True Lies during the summer of 2018. Moore said he brought up a line from the movie he thought was funny at the time. Well, he thought it was funny at the time. And he said, women can't live with them, can't kill them. He said he told the joke to Frazee, laughing lightheartedly. But he said Frazee responded, "Not so. Nobody, no crime. Not so. Nobody, no crime." That was Frazee's answer to that. Now, after the FBI took Frazee's phone in December, he met with Moore in the Woodland Park and asked to use his phone to make a call on December the 4th, 2018. Moore said the call lasted 5 minutes and 58 seconds, according to his cell. Moore said he could only hear what Frazee was saying, not what the other person on the other line was saying. He said they were discussing horses. Nay. Oh, guess who he was talking to? The horse lady, KK. And he also said, if I get arrested because they've taken my phone, I'm going to have my friend here call you and get will be from this phone number, so come and get these horses, Frazee said over the phone, according to Moore. He then said the area code for the number was 208. which indicates an Idaho number. He said he never talked to the person Freze called that day, so we can assume it was KK, but this person never called his number like Freze told her to. In early December, Freze started to make many comments about Pike and San Isabel National Forest further west of Florissant. Moore said Freze said if Berreth had committed suicide, she could just run up to the national forest and do it, and nobody would ever find her. Freze said there were parts of the national forest where no man has ever been. He's watching too much Star Trek. Or ever would be for thousands of years, like thousands of light years, I guess. Moore said Freze brought this topic up often, that Berreth had gone to the national forest and had killed herself. Well, we thought Freze didn't talk. We thought Freze shut his mouth. We thought he was that kind of guy, but it looks like he's had lots of conversations with people. Yes, he has. He's involved a lot of people in this mess also. Talk about KK not telling anybody. Freze was telling everybody. By the sounds of it. But anyway, one time, Moore said, he asked how that could be the case if investigators said her cell phone had pinged off a cell tower in Idaho. To which Freze replied, yeah, that's right. So what was he trying to do? Make up all these stories and he's trying to divert it away from himself, and her phone's in Idaho. Yeah, which it was. When they talked about their Thanksgivings, Moore said, Freze said, he had picked Kaylee up from, Kelsey's home. They keep saying Berreth, but I just change it and say Kelsey because I do. On November the 22nd, went to the bank and Walmart, fed cattle, and then went home to have Thanksgiving at the Fraze's ranch. Moore said he was acting very odd, very nervous, and he said this. During one of their trips down to Westcliff to take care of cattle there in December 2018, Freze mentioned to Moore that, Kelsey's blood could be on him. Kelsey's blood could be on him. He said she had a nosebleed and put her head on his lap, so he got blood on his pants and shirt and boots. His pants and shirts and boots. She had a nosebleed, and she put his head. Yeah, I bet she did. 'Cause when you killed her with the bat, you had a hold of her head. Yeah. So he's probably speaking the truth. Which we know. And we know he got blood on his clothes 'cause he washed them. he washed them in the washer. He said, do you think they'd be able to find any of that even though it's all been washed? Frazee asked. And this is what Moore said on the stand. Moore replied that authorities can find blood even where people can't see it. That's true. He's a wise man. He's a wise rancher. He is. And he never wondered out loud. He never wondered out loud where Kelsey was or if she's okay, Moore said. When he'd say that, I hope, Kelsey would just show up and everything would go back to normal, Frazee wouldn't react, he said. On several trips, Frazee asked, why are they even investigating this? If there's no body, there's no crime. What are they even after me? What do they think they're going to find? Moore said. He remembered him saying that. Frazee said during one call with Moore that their conversation was being recorded. But he felt like he needed to ask if anything was disrupted by the Red Barn, which Moore understood as the Red Bar at the Nash Ranch. They're speaking code now? Moore said no, and Frazee said, oh, all right, just curious. This phone call had indeed been recorded and was played in court on Friday afternoon. After this call, Moore immediately called Frazee's attorney and then law enforcement. He then went down to Nash Ranch but didn't report seeing anything out of the norm. See, by this time, his friend Moore has kind of come to and has really thought, man, this man has killed Kelsey. He's made her disappear. Yeah, I bet you he was thinking that. It might be his friend, but he's come to realize that his friend is a murderer. Alleged. And so he did that. And aside from some alpha A, hey, was no longer in the barn. He said he did not get on top of the hay bales at any time. So, he went into the barn to look. He went in there to do a little investigating. Moore said they talked again on December the 20th, 2018. He couldn't understand what this whole big thing was all about. Moore said it made no sense to him, he said. People going missing every day all across the United States, and this is national news? It's coast to coast coverage. I don't even understand why there is such a big deal over this. This is Frazee saying that to his friend. Moore replied that a white, beautiful young mother had gone missing So it's what the media cared about. That's right. That's right, Morn. You tell him. You tell him. Yeah. She suddenly goes missing. And we suspect Patrick Frazee right away. And we wasn't far wrong. We wasn't far wrong. He said Frazee's response was, "Man, if I had known it would have blown up this big, I never would have." And then he said he didn't finish the sentence. Moore said he never asked Frazee if he killed Kelsey Berreth. No, he didn't ask him. He didn't need to ask him. He didn't need to ask him. The defense confirmed a few details from Moore's testimony, noting that they liked to joke around a lot and sometimes talked BS. And Moore was excused but not released and was ordered to stay available to the district attorney's office. So guys, that's the end of the testimony for Friday the 11th, 8th, 2019 of the witness for the day. And Monday, there is no court on Monday because it's a holiday, it's a Veterans Day, so there will be no court. So that is the end of Friday's testimony, which they had a lot of witnesses and they came in and, said what they had to say, and they were out. And so they kept them coming today. They kept the witnesses coming, and they were, I don't think they spent too much on the stand out of the ordinary. There was no questions by the jury, I don't think, this afternoon. It didn't say that in the report. And so that's the end of today's testimony. So guys, let's have a little discussion on this and your thoughts. So far, so good. I mean, the DA, the prosecutors, are slowly but surely putting the pieces together and making their case. Now, we were expecting witnesses, but we didn't know what they knew. Now, we know. Now, it just comes to my attention that there was a lot more people knew about Kelsey was going to vanish. Just like KK knew, except some people weren't asked to do it, the dirty deed. But Patrick had been talking this crazy for a long time, and it sounds like he was a very demeaning man. He put Kelsey down. He treated her like shit. He didn't respect her. He called her names. He didn't love her. He didn't care for her. Look how he was talking about her in 2016. And she hardly knew the man. He put her down. I don't know why Kelsey put up with that crap right away when she just knew him, barely knew him. But she did have her own place, but he probably never left her alone. He probably hounded her. He called her, do this, do that for me, do this for me, do this for me. He probably never did nothing for her. He bossed her around. He controlled her, tried to control her. I don't know how much control he had of her. And perhaps this is why she's vanished off the face of the earth. And he wanted Kaylee because she was taking him to court. She was gonna finalize some paperwork, well, custody, sort it out. I don't know which way it was gonna go. He was gonna be court ordered to pay child support because there was no court order for child support. It doesn't say there was any court order for child support. He was willingly giving it to her, as far as I know. And they're kind of saying that they're engaged, but it seems like maybe they weren't engaged for that long, because by him, sweet talking his way back in to her and keeping her in his life, got engaged so he doesn't have to pay child support anymore. Because people think, well, you don't live together, right? But if you're engaged, why should you pay child support? Well, is he thinking on these terms? Because it doesn't matter if you're engaged or not. You're not living together, so you need to help pay for Kelsey's care. And that's what that's about. Because he has to work and she has to work. And maybe he was resenting the fact that he takes care of his child a lot. Why should he pay child support? Because he's taking care of her, well, I assume every time she goes to work, but I'm not actually sure. Well, they've never really said how they worked it out. They've never really said that. Did Frazee take her every time she worked? Did Kelsey get a babysitter? How did this work out? Nobody really has talked about that, but it doesn't really matter, really. But it kind of does, because he's the one that's complaining about everything. And so he has a track record with women. He's not a nice guy. He treats them like they're a piece of crap, like they're his cattle, and orders them around. Turn left, turn right, no, move over here, move over there. That's why he complained to Kelsey, KK, when she said she helped him clean his place up, and he bitched at her because she didn't do a good job. Man, this man was bossy, wasn't he? He was bossy. He didn't know how to treat women. It doesn't mean all ranchers don't know how to treat women, but your job's your job, and your girlfriend, your wives, your spouses, they're not cattle, all right, to order around and move around and treat them like a piece of shit. But as we hear the testimony and we get to know his personality now his sister Erin, I think that's her name, why did she want some dirt on Patrick? Because it seems like this whole family don't function very well. I don't know whether it's money, greed, or I don't know. They just don't know how to be a family. And Mama Frazee, Well, we've heard this testimony that she see the fire. She was outside on her porch. She see them. They see her. But they didn't say how long she stayed on the porch for, but she went back in the house. And people are saying they don't know how you could not smell the stench of death, a body burning, because it smells. There's a smell about it. But like people say too, is maybe he's burnt animals, a lot of animals on the ranch before, and so it's nothing new. Do you know what I mean? But for his mother to plead the fifth and ask for immunity, that shows her involvement. It's telling me that she's involved somehow. I don't know how, but nobody asks for immunity and pleads the fifth for no reason. Okay, alright, she stands outside her porch and sees the fire, and she sees them around the campfire, and she goes back in. So, you want to plead the fifth for that? No, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I don't know if it makes sense to any of you guys, but that just don't make sense. Yeah, because I don't know if the investigators have got something, have got some evidence, or has phone records or texts or anything like that. I don't know what they got. I'm yawning now. Anyway, so that's the end. Not the end, but it's the end of the day, Friday of the trial. So they'll be back Tuesday, guys. Tuesday. So you get a little break from all this, and there's other cases in the news as well, but I'm not following too much. I only can do like one or two at a time, and little bits here and there because it's consuming. They take a long time in court to get through stuff, and then especially if there's no cameras and you've got to wait for the statements to come out, and then look at them. It is time consuming, but anyway, it's a case worth waiting for. It's a case worth listening to. It's been nearly a year, and by the time they finish this, it'll be nearly Thanksgiving. And you know what we give thanks this year for? Guilty.